Hey, what's up, my fellow parents? Hey, I'm joined here by my man, one of my best friends, and such a great parent, Jordan. And I'm joined by you, our listeners from all around the world. We are so grateful to be in your life, to be a positive voice in your life. And today we're going to talk about a common we all struggle with, which is yelling. Why do we yell? How to stop yelling? And we got some really interesting take on today's episode, Jordan.
Yeah, and of course, it's so interesting whenever I yell, and there's been a lot of it in my life with my kids. I always feel so bad afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like after the dog goes to the bathroom on the carpet and knows it shouldn't have done that, and they tuck the tail between the legs, and they're like, "I'm so sorry." That's how I feel after I yell at my kids.
Oh, and some of us are caught up in this nasty cycle, man, where they say, like, yelling is the only thing that works, or I try not to yell, but my kids don't listen and they push me. It's like, hey, today we're gonna give you some really good information. And Jordan, we're gonna do something that I think is gonna be a little unique. We're gonna give you some great tools on how to stop yelling. But what we're gonna do here is I found some really good research on the brain, and I'm gonna tell you a little about your kid's brain and your brain, and that information is hopefully not going to be boring. It's going to be good, and it's going to help you to stop yelling. But Jordan, you ready for some information on the brain?
Yeah, I'm interested to know what's happening. And this is in the kid's brain or my brain or both brains?
You know what? I was thinking about that because it's primarily about the kid's brain, but we have a brain that's just the same way too. So let's actually talk about our brains too. And I'm going to, at the same time, let me just cut into it. Ready? So there's this well-known author named Daniel Siegel. He wrote a book that I read a few years ago. It's very well-known. It's called The Whole Brain Child. And he said, look, this is how our kids' brains are functioning. And the more you can understand your kid's brain, the better you can parent them, teach them, guide them. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good concept.
Yeah. The more we know, the better we can do. Good.
Yeah, I read the book. I thought personally it was just okay. It was a little bit boring for me. That's why I'm sensitive to not making boring. But he's like, hey, here's the gist of it. He developed this hand model. So I'm making a fist with my hand right now. And if you're listening to this, if you can, just make a fist. And what he's gonna do is I got a few tools for us today. And the first tool is this: is when you are about to yell at your child, think about their brain and think about your brain. And I got 4 or 5 other action steps. We're just going to spend the most on this one. Is that okay with you, Jordan?
Sure.
Okay. So there's 2 approaches with a child's brain and how they learn and how they function. Siegel calls it a top-down approach, and the second is a bottom-up approach. Any guesses of what that could mean?
Well, I mean, it could be anything, but in layman's terms, I know that kids learn best when they're actually doing something, right? They say when you're out playing, you learn more than when you're sitting down and sitting in front of a teacher teach. It's like you learn more by being hands-on.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's top down or bottom up. Either way,
so
it's
that is what's going to that is what's going to be called a top-down approach. A regulated human can navigate a top-down approach. So that's good. So brain, think on the top. So brain. So think about your child, everybody. Your crazy child who's acting out, or your challenging teenager. When they're doing well, it's because they're using their brain and they're using a top-down approach. They're able to talk through their feelings. And these are why things like regulation, co-regulation, dysregulation, these are words we're going to use today. All right. So let's continue. For a dysregulated person, they are better supported in a bottom-up approach. What is a bottom-up approach?
Well, first off, what's a dysregulated person?
Like a child who's yelling, a child who's whining.
Oh, a child that's
acting
acting
who's really complaining, or a parent who's yelling.
Okay.
A parent who's whining.
Got
it. A parent dysregulated. So interesting you would think that, okay, if my child is here, I just need to talk to them, to their brain. I just need to use logic. You can't do this. That's wrong.
Right.
Can you see that's using logic?
Yeah, but they don't see logic. I said the same answer 12 times over the weekend. They keep asking me why. Well, I just told you.
Yes.
Well, I don't understand. Well, I just told you. And then they ask it again. So it's almost like they're not using their brain when they're not getting what they want.
Do you ever say that to your kids? Like, what's on your brain? You're not using your brain.
I say, dude, I just told you. What are you talking?
Right.
Like, listen, you're asking me. I'm telling you right now.
This is one of the reasons why I love working with you. We got a good team. You're going to keep humanizing and telling stories, and I'm going to tell some stories too. So here we are. It means that for a dysregulated child who's not listening to you, the best way to connect them is from a bottom-up approach. This means connecting to their feelings and calming them gives them a sense of safety so they can then access their logical brain.
Got it. Okay. So you're in the heat of a moment, and you want to yell. Your kid is complaining about you put the wrong jelly on their peanut butter sandwich or whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay. And they're upset. And you're saying, okay, I could use my brain and talk logic. Hey, well, we were out of this jelly, and I had to use the other jelly. I don't like it. I wanted peach jelly, and you gave me strawberry jelly.
Oh, my gosh.
And you're speaking logic, but it's not working.
Right.
So instead, you're saying we have to help get to their feeling level.
So now let's look at their brain. Yes. So how do we do
say,
this? How do we engage their brains? So now here's another picture you can imagine. In a brain, Siegel tells us that there's these zones. The red zone, lower brain, and that's kind of the reptilian brain. Then you got a yellow zone that's in the middle of the brain, and then you got a green zone, upper brain.
Okay.
Frontal cortex. All right, you with me so far?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Each zone has a different job, and knowing which zone we're in, or our child is in, can help us to effectively communicate. Isn't this interesting?
Yes, but I need to know how I know what zone my
kid's
kid's
we're getting
in.
there. Right, this is why this is like a unique take on how to stop yelling and connecting with your kids.
Right.
Think about the brains.
So I'm having to analyze this in the moment, in real time.
Yes,
as the
and
parent,
this is going to help us.
Which is tough.
I've been doing this recently. It's going to help us. I'm going to ask you a
great.
story, and I'm going to ask you to tell me a story, and I'll tell a story too. The question is this. I'm going to explain the red zone part of the brain to you real quick, and then tell me a story about how you or your kid recently went to the red zone, okay? Red zone. In the red zone, the reptilian brain, which I don't really like reptiles at all. I think they're kind of gross, so that's like an interesting thing. We are asking and accessing our surroundings with this big question. And the big question when you're in your red brain or your child's in their red brain is, am I safe? So
the child is asking this.
Am I safe? Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of their unconscious and automatic, which is out of our control. It's in their brain. As in, here's what's happening is like their heart rate is up, their breathing, their blood pressure, their body temperature, even their balance. And they're not even cognizant of things outside of them. It's what's happening because they're in that spot. Red
and they can
brain.
be in that spot maybe because of us. Like if we take it to the next level as adults and yell so violently, they can maybe go right to this red zone and fear for their life, basically. Okay.
Yeah, so for example, I've noticed that I have a 19-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter. And I've noticed, Jordan, that when we're out as a family, my 19-year-old often snaps at my 8-year-old about safety. She's like, don't go out there. You get hit by a car. Don't. That car is too close. What are you doing? Don't do that.
Right.
No, if you go over there.
She's being protective.
Right, but it's like, what's happening is she's in her red brain. The 19-year-old is like afraid.
She's
worried. And then she's getting aggressive because am I safe? I am. But the 8-year-old's not safe. Well, the 8-year-old's like,
yeah.
Right?
Do.
Right.
So, and I was thinking of a different example. My example was like, if I yell at my kids, they rarely go to this red zone because they know they're safe. Mm-hmm. But if they get yelled at by, let's say, a neighbor or a stranger on the street, they don't know how that person's going to react. And so they could immediately go to this red zone, like fearful, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I don't know this person. Why are they yelling at me?
Clues to help identify if you or your child are in the red zone. Mouth breathing.
Oh, okay, like a dog.
Quick verbal patterns, dilated pupils, sweating, hiding, physical or emotional aggression. It all boils down to that fight, flight, or freeze response or
scared.
fawn.
Basically just scared.
Whoa, something's going on.
Right.
I saw this firsthand. We had a family over, and the child was a tween and refusing to eat. And the parents like, come on, you know your blood sugar. You got to keep eating. I don't want anything. I don't want any food. And so he ate a little bit, and then he went to the other rooms to play with other kids. And then the night's over, and it's time to go. Take a guess what happens.
I'm hungry.
No, worse.
Oh, worse?
Oh, yeah, worse. He's like not listening to his parents.
Right.
He's not finding his shoes. He's saying,
Right,
leave
he's
me
just-
alone. They're saying, clean up the toys. He's like, no.
No.
He's like, I'm hungry. You're like, well, we have this food
Right.
and this food. It's like, I don't want either
I don't
of
want
those. I don't want to eat.
Of
And he's
course.
totally deregulated. It's like he's there, but he's not there. I was looking at him. I was watching him. He's not making eye contact with anybody. And I was going to watch, okay, what are we going to do here? And I was also thinking, how can I help? So I realized that when I go up and talk to this child, sometimes he connects better with his parents when I'm standing right there, just like trying to help out. I'm like, hey man, it's okay. Your parents are here. We want to help you. And then we get them all deregulated and we get him to go out to the car because they're leaving. And while he's in the car, the dad, who may not have been in the green zone, guess what he said to him? What? He said, hey, where are your shoes? Hey, we're leaving here without your shoes unless you go get them. Go get your shoes.
Oh, and he triggered him again, maybe.
And then the kid
Dad
is like,
got mad.
The kid is now like huffing and puffing, screaming,
right,
stomping through the house. I can't find them. I don't know where they are. He's not using his brain. And then the mom, who in this story was cool, calm, and collected, she's like, oh, they're right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, they literally are right there.
Right in front of
you. See, this is a kid in the red zone. Like, I am not safe. I don't have food.
Right.
I'm grumpy.
Right.
No one really cares about me. Is that interesting?
Right.
You got any stories like that?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now I want to hear like what the yellow and green zone mean, because this is going to be different, and a lot of us can relate to the red. Like, we've had kids that have been the red, you know.
Yeah.
And we can see when that's coming, but I'm wondering if these other colors, if we call them that, are going to be less obvious.
The midbrain, or yellow zone, Siegel calls it, it's also unconscious, but it's kind of this automatic place, the source of value and judgments.
Right.
One of the best ways of understanding this is to think about the movie Inside Out.
Oh, okay.
This is like where all the thought patterns happen, all the emotions. It can be similar to the reptilian brain, but these are like what we do, like how we just naturally do these things. I thought of this myself, like if I'm not really thinking about other people's feelings, sometimes I will do something and I will hurt someone's feelings, and I'm not trying to.
No, you don't think about it,
but I'm
after
just
the fact.
Right, I'm not like really in that green zone spot. I'm just in the yellow zone. Like, I'm not raging. I'm not upset.
Right.
I'm
but
just
you might be reactive.
I'm just not as slowed down as I should be. And I have some people in my life, just like we probably all do, where I really, I can't, if I'm in that yellow zone, then it's going to maybe cause some problems.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And especially if it's like I have this example, like I remember I was swimming at a swimming pool, and the kids were playing, and they're getting a little rough, but they were playing just fine. Okay. And one of the parents looked over, and one of the girls was like, yeah, you know, they stole my toy. And one of the dads just flipped out on the little boys. Just completely flipped out. And the kid it wasn't even his fault, right? It was that trigger. It was that, like, another person is yelling at me. And so this kid got fearful, and he was in the red. But you're saying this yellow zone is more of like, you know, you're not being mean, but you're not being friendly. You're just kind of being in the middle. But ultimately, you looked at me weird, so now I feel scared because Sean had a look or something.
Yeah, the Siegel says that in the yellow zone, the main primary question is, am I loved?
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Right.
Am I loved? Like, do people really care about me? But you're not in the green zone. In the green zone, the main question is, what am I learning? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So, am I
safe?
But
it's hard to get the kids
loved?
there.
And what am I learning? And
right.
like, this is this conscious place where you're like, I'm here. I'm logical. Have you done much reading or heard much about nose breathing at all?
Well, I know how important it is, but a lot of us don't do it. That's why it's kind of a term when you say, you mouth breather. It's like a diss, right? If you say that to somebody.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're supposed to be breathing through our noses. Look at all the animals out there. They're doing it all the time.
Tons of research on nose breathing now.
Yeah.
Tons.
I've been having to wear these nose strips to pull my nose apart.
Yeah.
So that I could breathe at night, because I had an accident in high school where I broke my nose, and it's never been fixed, so I have a deviated septum, and I'm too much of a worrywart to go get the dang surgery. I'm like, no, I don't want to have surgery.
Yeah.
So I just wear these nose strips. Oh my gosh, I sleep so much better. I dream
really?
better.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Oh my gosh, one of my children is struggling with mouth breathing at nighttime, which can cause a lot of problems. It can also reveal deeper problems. So I'm going to tell her about that. But next, watch your kids.
Does she have a clogged nose, or can she breathe out of her nose?
She can, but she has the phlegm that builds up. It's like we need to take her to the ear, nose, and throat doctor. There's something going on in there. She has to clear her throat sometimes, and so they actually have mouth tape now.
Yeah, mouth tape,
which forces people to do nose breathing at nighttime. So we tried to get her on that. She says, yeah, it's just pretty annoying. But next time, watch yourself and watch your kid and ask yourself in these heated moments, who is doing the nose breathing? Because nose breathing is really good. It engages the brain. It means you're calm, they're calm, slower movements, listening, and you're really engages. And then there's these terms. He's just maybe there's too many terms. This is why the book can be a little confusing. Siegel says there's kind of two terms to understand this. There's the term the lid is down or the lid is flipped. So lid down or flipped lid. That's why you say like, oh, that person's really flipped their lid.
But what does it mean?
It means like you're angry. You're not in a good spot. They flipped it.
Lid
They're
down,
flipping out.
You're fine. Out. If you flip your lid, you're out of control. Got it.
So the key here is the next tool number one, how to stop yelling. Think about your brain and the child's brain. But this is really interesting. Jordan, let's talk about why we yell at our kids and why it works.
Well, I was just thinking, we're talking about not yelling, but there are cases where it works. Think of coaching. Coaches yell. That'll straighten kids up right away. Mm-hmm. They yell in the military. They'll scream your face off. They'll shape you up right away. There are times when I've had to yell, and finally I'm getting a response. It doesn't work all the time, but when I get there, it'll create motion real quick.
There's all these people out there, and I'm one of them that says don't yell at your kids. You shouldn't yell at your kids. But the reason why we yell is because something's working. It works. But this is the science behind why it works. It works because it takes our kids directly from the zone they're in, and it takes them into that red zone of fear.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
Whip up and listen to me right now.
I'm not safe anymore. So what's interesting is when they're in the red zone, remember, they're not asking, what am I learning right now? They're not in that yellow zone. Am I loved? Pop quiz. What is the red zone question about?
Fear. You just said I'm scared of my life. I'm worried. Am I safe? Am I safe?
So if you have a pattern of yelling at your children, you got to slow down and remember this is not where you want to be. You might cause potential long-term trauma. You want your kids to feel safe with you. You want your kids to hear you and respect you. You don't want to pass this pattern on to your children. We want to break these cycles. So step one, think about their brain. And here's the closed fist going back. That's what I mentioned it, and I almost forgot to go back to it. Couple things. Okay, closed fist. In the heat of the moment, here's what you remember. Okay, when your fist is closed, it means you or your child,
tense.
You are tense.
Yeah.
They're closed off, nose breathing, right? They're not really engaged. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, mouth breathing.
Mouth breathing.
Scared.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you've got another fist here. Now you can open up your fist.
Talk to the hand because the face don't give up.
Yeah. Yep. So open up. You know, I made a mistake. The red palm is what legal says. Means the red open means red. Sorry, guys.
Like the stop sign hand.
Yes.
Like the red hand when you're walking across
the
crosswalk.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Okay, that's the mouth breathing. That's the dilated pupil, sweating, hiding, aggression, defensiveness, physical, irrationality.
Yeah.
Close your fist. Okay, now clues that someone is engaged here. More nose breathing. They have more calm verbal patterns, regular breathing patterns, slow and flow movement. They're listening. They're able to answer. Okay? That's why they're in the brain, because now you're making a brain, right, with your fist.
Sure.
And now in the yellow, you can move your thumb to do like whatever
to
this.
Like the number 4.
Yeah, like your number 4.
Fingers closed.
Oh, yeah, good. 4. Fingers closed.
Okay.
In the yellow. And now they're wondering, am I loved? This is why they might be crying. They might be saying, I hate you, or I love you, or please be with me, or I'm scared, right? So they're not totally opened up, but they're not totally green, close-fisted. Oh my gosh, we did it.
What's this author's name?
Dr. Daniel Siegel wrote the book.
Siegel, okay.
The whole
I'm
brain child.
understanding why you think this book is so boring. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? All right, we got to put it in layman's terms here. Like, what the heck does this actually mean? I kind of broke it down, and I kind of understand that.
Thank you. Do it. Break it down.
Well, if we take the Sean method, right, and you think about having to have these heart-to-hearts, that's going to be the green zone. That's going to be where the zone where they're going to actually do some learning. Now,
keep going.
There is going to be that moment where you're going to yell, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the important thing is following up after and making sure they're learning as to why you're yelling. And then over the long period, you won't have to yell as much because there will be a lot more learning happening.
I like it. I like what you said.
And constantly say, I love you. You're loved. Make sure they know they're loved.
Yeah, which actually helps them in that yellow zone. Am I loved?
Right.
Someone's yelling at me. Does that mean they don't love me? No, it just means that they're going through something. Your parents saying, "Tell me more." What any takeaways? Because I got 5 action steps for our listeners. What else?
Good.
Anything else?
No. I'm just thinking like I've tried to reduce yelling a ton, and we have done a pretty good job. But
good job.
Your buttons are always going to get pushed, and you're always going to.
Yes.
The good thing is we are constantly trying to raise the bar as to when we yell as parents. And the bar does go up. As patience increases, we can take deep breaths and move on.
Yes.
But the reality is there is going to be a time when you're going to go over that bar and you're going to yell. Mm-hmm. And you just need to make sure to do the follow-up work, right?
Yes.
And do the follow-up work so that you're actually teaching these kids as to why you're getting to the point of where you're yelling.
Yeah. Yep. Here's 5 action steps.
What are your action steps?
Okay. Action step.
Number 1,
give
them the belt. You don't have to say anything. You just pull the belt out.
No, that's not one of the steps.
No. Oh, okay, sorry.
In the heat of the moment, think about everyone's brains. All right? This is a creative 5 creative action steps to stop yelling. In the heat of the moment, think about everyone's brains. Number 2.
Think about their brains.
Notice when your child, your teenager, or yourself is in the red zone. Right?
Sure. Give ourselves a timeout. We need
everyone's yelling. Everyone's yelling because they're in the red zone. So, like, on one hand, you think, like, my family is a bunch of yellers. We have a yelling problem. Yeah, that's true, but you have a brain problem. Your brains are going to these red spots too much, and these children need your help with it. Action step number 3.
And you can change that. We can change that. Okay, keep going. Good.
Action step number 3. Be mindful of regulation, co-regulation, and dysregulation.
Okay, you got to break those down. Don't understand.
One of my favorite stories you ever told me was about a month ago on this podcast. Such an amazing parenting story about how you took your children camping, and your wife wasn't there. Your son got scared, and how really, in a really sensitive, loving, you called it like a feminine way, gentle. You came to emotion coach him to help him. You helped him feel safe. You helped him feel connected.
Yeah. Instead of saying, suck it up, buttercup, you're going to be fine. Stop being a little baby. I was like, no, I need to be more of an emotion coach and say, it's okay. I'm here. You're safe. We're good.
So what you did there is you did like co-regulation. You came in and you used your presence and your words to help your child regulate. In the forest.
That's good.
See, and why I don't like your coaches yelling at players metaphor is because, there's a time and a place to yell in different settings and different social places, sure. But what you're talking about is like teaching. And good coaches can yell at players, of course. But oftentimes yelling at a child doesn't actually get them to actually regulate.
No, I won't learn.
It gets them to go to that red spot.
You're right.
Where now they're afraid and they shut it down. But they never had any help learning why they're doing what they're doing, processing through it, unless you circle back like you mentioned.
And that makes sense. I remember a time in football practice, we had an ex-NFL Super Bowl champion, might I say, who was part of our coaching staff. And I remember a time he got so mad at his own son. He yelled, and everybody stopped. He picked up his son, and I thought he was going to throw him. Like, I was seeing red, and I wasn't even getting yelled at. So it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. And, you know, I don't know if there was any learning going on, but I do agree with you. The learning comes after, like the calm, the collective, like, hey, let's go through this. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right, next action step. Ask yourself, should I be connecting with my child right now, or does my child need just some space? So the reason why we yell.
And how will we know that? Just experience over time, trial and error.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
Because you can't ask.
A brilliant question.
Because sometimes they don't even know what they want.
Sometimes they do know, and sometimes they don't. I think what we have right now is we have some parents who they get so triggered by their child's like emotionality, they're just like on it. They're over parenting. Like, are you okay?
Right.
What's going on, honey? Do you want to talk? How are you feeling? Do you need a snack?
Yeah.
Do you want to go there? Do you want to go here? And sometimes that's actually just a sign of your own deregulation. Like sometimes it's best to really connect with the child. Like this story of this couple that came over to my house with their deregulated child. Your child did not need space when you were camping. But sometimes wouldn't it make sense that sometimes a child just needs some space and to just deal with it on their own.
We all do. Let's be honest. We all need space,
Yeah.
right? We all need space sometimes. I guess it depends on age as well. You know, the older the kids are, the more mature they are going to be able to understand if they need space or not.
Like this
and sometimes I could think they need space, and they say, I don't need space. I'm like, yes, you do. You need to go to your room right now.
Right.
Give yourself some
space.
space.
I walk into my home office here, and there's Legos all around the floor. Tons of them.
Oh, did you step on them?
No,
and just,
thankfully.
They're so nice and soft.
But I saw the kids in my office playing with the Legos in my office, and I wanted to say, hey, make sure you clean this up before you guys leave, because this is the same couple that came over. I wanted to then remind them 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,000 times, do not leave my office a mess. But I just decided in the heat of that moment, while we have guests over, you know what? I'm just going to give these kids some space to be kids. They're probably not going to clean up those Legos. I'm probably have to come in and clean them up myself. And you know what? That's okay. Because I'd rather just go down that path and instead of asking a bunch of like 10 and 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds to clean up Legos. Space. Just chill out.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I have a feeling if you stepped on those Legos, you'd have a different reaction right now. And you would not be so calm and collected.
Yeah, it's so true. If I came in barefooted, I'm ready to have a great day in the office. I step on one of those.
Oh, you would be furious. You'd be going to red right away. I'm like, yell.
Hey, let me
but
ask
you know what? That shows us like every, example and every moment we're in. We are in charge of how we react, and that was so good.
Yeah, here's let me ask you a question as we wrap up today. I'll go first. I'm going to answer it first. Tell me 2 of your favorite tools you use to stop yourself from yelling. Here's 2 of mine. One is breathing through my nose.
Breathing helps for sure.
I really do breathe a lot. Number 2, I ask myself this question: is this a teaching moment? And then I say to myself, be the adult in a relationship. You cannot control these children, but you can control yourself. Teaching moments don't happen in the moment. They're kids. Don't take this personally. So I use self-talk to calm myself down. Those little cliches, man, they really work for me. Those are my top 2 strategies for me to not
That's great.
yell. Tell me
For
some of your
me,
strategies.
I would say the first one is I listen. I purposely keep my mouth closed. One, maybe that means I'm breathing out of my nose. I wasn't thinking about that, but I'm just purposely not opening my mouth, and I'm giving it a second to process whatever's happening. Like, let's say someone's yelling at me. I give it a second, and it literally could just be 1 second before I'm immediately reacting. And it just gives me enough time to think about the first word out of my mouth, and then ultimately how I will follow up with those. And it gives me enough time to try and just think for a second, right?
Really good, man. Yeah, because when you're in that red zone, you're moving yourself into that yellow or green zone.
Because if you could just blurt out and be reactive and it would just continue to yell, I'm like, no, I'm going to think. What did they just say? Okay, how do I want to say this? Okay, do I need to say it this way so that they can feel heard in the moment? What I get upset about is if the conversation goes in a circle and I'm just like, we're arguing about the same thing. I don't understand. I've already told you this, and why aren't hearing it? And then I can start to get riled up a little bit. But then I still can't think. Okay, and then the second tip I have is, like, let's say I have a child and the kids are playing, 2 kids, and one kid throws a block and it hits the other kid in the face, right? And then it's like, and then we got crying and then bleeding, and I can immediately be like, and like I might scream for a second, like, stop, or why'd you do that? And after that initial yell for a second, I'll calm down, I'll check, and then basically, again, I guess it's the same tip. It's just like, do you see why this is why, we don't throw hard objects, right? Do you understand why we don't do this? And then you try to go to a teaching moment in that point. But the initial reaction is usually like a yell to stop whatever is happening. And then I try to think as much as I can through the process.
And just to try to take what I learned here from the whole red, yellow, and green, the question for you is not, am I safe? The question for you in that is, how can I keep my children safe, right? All these kids emotionally safe,
right?
Physically safe.
How do I make it to where they feel safe, right?
They feel safe, right? Which is why so many parents get in the red, because deep down they actually don't feel safe. They feel so disrespected. They feel like things are so out of control. These kids are out to get them. They are raising horrible kids. I am not a good parent. They don't respect me, and that they make themselves into that red condition right there. And so my last tip yelling is a parenting tool. We've already showed you scientifically why some parents use it and why it does work. It brings kids' brains into that red place. And so the fifth tool to use here is use your better tools. Use better tools. And if you're asking yourself, what are my better tools? Well, then you haven't been paying attention to this podcast. Right? We've been giving you tools every week, so many tools.
It's hard in the moment. Okay, real quick question for you before we go. Have you ever had a situation with your clients where you had a yelling family?
Yes.
And you told them, hey, next time I want you to not yell don't yell at all. Yeah. And then the kid's reaction was so shocked that it actually caused change in that moment?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for asking that. 100% of my clients have a story like that. 100% of my clients, I hear them on such a regular basis, I don't even think about it anymore. They say their kids say to them, "Why are you saying that? Why are you acting this way? Like,
why are you acting?
What are you doing? Why are you? What is going on with you?" 100% say that because
so it's like a shock and
it's a shock to the kids. And the reason why the parents are able to do this is because I give them all these tools through my process and my programs and these live calls they have with me, so they actually make these changes because parenting is so emotional. And
so
you need
everybody
tools
listening,
for your mind.
If you're a yeller, just try it. Yeah. The next altercation that happens, don't yell. Don't say anything. Don't even react. I don't know. Just experiment. And I bet it creates such a shock, the kids will be concerned for your own health because they're like, I'm so used to getting yelled at right now. What is wrong with you?
I'm thankful for that story, and I'm thankful that we can change. We can always change patterns. We can break generational cycles. Thank you for bringing that up. And if you do have painful patterns in your parenting with your kids, please give me a call. I would love to help you. I'll help you one-on-one or in my membership. Jordan, thankful for you and that great story. We can change.
We can change, and I'm thankful to everybody out there. We're recording this now after most school has started, so school's back in session. To all you teachers who keep it cool, calm, and collected in the classroom, I'm thankful for you because I know it's very hard in the moment to try and be cool, calm, and collected. So hopefully there's a little bit more peace at home now that there's more of a regulated schedule. I'm thankful for that.